Tech News Weekly is sponsored by Hover.com. Go to gfu.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. FreshBooks. FreshBooks is an easy-to-use online invoicing service that saves you time, gets you paid faster, and makes you look professional. Get started completely for free at freshbooks.com. And by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook by going to audiblepodcast.com/GFQ.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, to Tech News Weekly. I'm your host, Andrew Zarian. We are back after being off last week for Thanksgiving break. I'm joined by Eric Lanigan, as I am every other week. How you doing, Eric?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you?
And I have Suncast here with me in his compound.
My compound
from a undisclosed location with shower curtains in the background. How you doing, Suncast?
Doing pretty good.
Interesting week in tech. I'm going to get to a lot of the topics, but before I do, I want to remind everybody to check us out at gfqnetwork.com. You can watch us live at gfqlive.tv and interact with us. We have about 30 people in the chat room, so it's great to see a bunch of people turning out and chatting today. We're also on Stickam, Ustream, Justin TV, and chill.com. Chill.com has a great feed for us, and it's a great website, so check them out. I wanted to get all the plugs out before we start because this is going to be a pretty deep conversation for today's show. And I want to start it off with the Carrier IQ debacle that's sprung up over the last couple days. I think it was the middle of the week we saw this while I dropped my pen. Turns out that there's a software called Carrier IQ on a lot of these Android phones. And it's designed to grab data and send it back to the carrier or send it back to whoever so it could do debugging stuff. So if your phone crashes, it would send back a report on what caused it and what they could do. But now it's causing a uproar because it might be a severe piracy threat. I want to go to Eric on this first. Privacy. Is that what I said? Is that what I said, Suncast?
You said piracy, I think.
Did I say piracy? Whatever. I don't know. I want to go to Eric first on this because this is very interesting.
Take, how could we use it for piracy?
How can we use it? Yeah. Technically, I mean, and the defense is a lot of researchers are arguing and saying, well, it doesn't cause a serious threat because it's not grabbing your sensitive data, but it can. Potentially.
Yeah. I can't wait to find out what exactly it's doing, right? Because the videos seem to show it was logging the text of someone's, text message in totally clear text. We don't know what they were doing with it. I think Senator Al Franken now has posed a set of questions to the company to, Carrier IQ, asking what's the deal here? What information are you collecting? Who receives it? Is it the handset maker, the operating system maker? Is it yourself, Carrier IQ? Who is it? What is it? So far, Carrier IQ seems to have said, and I hope I have the latest information because this story has kind of gone and broken in chunks of the last few days. From what I've seen, the latest now is the Carrier IQ said we don't log keystrokes and don't save the clear text of text messages. So I think that leaves us with no explanation for how that video was made then or what that guy found.
I think anybody that really knows technology would know that many of these companies do it. Everybody uses, every software almost gives you an option, right? If they're not just doing it on their own, but they'll say, for debugging purposes, would you mind sending back your whatever feedback to improve the service? But this was done in a strange way. So I guess, do you feel that this is some sort of threat to people? Do you feel that this could be misused by carriers or phone manufacturers or software providers?
I'm not sure because, this story started around Wednesday and it's really taken off and bursting into flames. And it's just so much information out there that we don't know what to believe and what not to believe because we're hearing so many differing stories and so much different information from different people. So we don't know the truth. That's what it comes down to is we don't know exactly what's going on with this software. I think what was really alarming at first was, there's this software installed that we don't know about. That's always something that's going to be causing some sort of concern. And then you have on top of that, this system administrator that had this video that showed an Android device. I believe it was an HTC Evo, supposedly recording a bunch of information, but the video didn't actually show if it was transmitting anywhere or not. Yeah. Carrier IQ has come out and said, no, we don't do anything. It's just, some little information about what was going on at the time of something happening so that we can diagnose it.
Well, Carrier
they're
IQ,
saying it's a diagnostic program.
Yeah, they came out and they said, and I believe this is from their press release or the statement they released, I believe yesterday or today, I'm not too sure on the date. 3 of the main complaints we hear from mobile device users are that it drops calls, poor customer service, and having to constantly recharge their device. Our software allows operators to figure out why problems are occurring and why calls are being dropped and how to extend battery life. We know. I
think we can all agree that that's fine.
Yeah, it is fine, but and I've always said this, and I think there was a story that we did a couple months ago about all these applications that we're downloading on these phones. We really don't know, and unless we really know technology or we know how to do it, we cannot figure out what data they're actually grabbing. It would be fairly easy for a manufacturer to kind of pop in and see what you're doing. Eric, do you think there are software providers doing this, or B, it's going to become a major problem eventually?
Doing what exactly? Siphoning off our data without us knowing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. That a lot of people use that Find My Car app. A friend of mine uses it when they go to the mall because they cannot remember where they parked. So pretty much with GPS, it tells the phone where the car is located, approximately 200 feet or whatever. This company could pretty much grab that data, sell it off, and say, okay, Tom is going to the mall every Thursday, so it's valuable to somebody. But we don't know if they're really doing that.
I think the scary thing is that we changed so quickly as a society from landline phones with an analog system that was very unintelligent. It was just wires plugged into wires. There was no monitoring. They didn't know what number went where. It wasn't kept, a record of everything for every time of day down to the second. Mm-hmm. We went from all of a sudden from that old system, all of a sudden to GPS, to cell phones, and then from cell phones quickly to GPS-enabled, fully location-aware, Wi-Fi aware, building and street aware. And we made that transition so rapidly that, and this is what's really scary, the carriers, the companies, the makers of the software don't even know what they're collecting or where it's going.
Yeah.
Didn't we just see this with Skyhook and with the whole issue with the iPhone tracking us? Apple didn't even know it was caching that data. Microsoft didn't know what they were caching. Google didn't know what they were caching. They don't even know what they're doing yet. And I think it is alarming to see another company, another third party called Carrier IQ. I never heard of them before. I don't remember ever reading about them or agreeing to some contract with them or ever hearing a disclosure that they would be used, or their software would be used to monitor whatever it is.
But apparently everybody's using them.
Yeah.
Including Apple. And
well, this is the funny thing that's really weird, is that we've had so much misinformation and information that we just don't know if it's true or not. Because I've heard different reports on who is and who isn't using this. I've seen, 2 articles that say, oh yeah, BlackBerry is using it. And then I've heard 2 more articles that say, no, BlackBerry's not using it.
Well, HTC for sure is using it because we saw the video. I had a list here of all the companies. So pretty much it was everybody. Everybody's using this, including Apple. And Apple immediately sent out a press release saying, well, we were using it. We're not really using it in iOS 5, but we were using it in iOS 4. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, strangely, actually, though, people like me who still have the iPhone 4.0, the first iPhone 4, even though I have iOS 5, still has Carrier IQ.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Apple didn't say why. Apple didn't say what they're doing with it. It remains a mystery right now.
This is going to become a larger issue in the coming years because we are becoming a mobile world. Everybody has some sort of mobile device with them now, between tablets and between cell phones and smartphones. Everybody's connected, and this data is going somewhere. And we're going to see more and more of these stories coming out in the next couple of years saying, well, they are siphoning off your data and they are selling it off to this company and they are selling it off to that company. I don't install any of these things, especially on my Android phone, because God knows where this stuff is coming from on my Android phone. But there are many applications that are like for shopping, and I'm like, you are giving these companies direct access to what you're buying, when you're buying, how much you spend, and how much you're not spending. And this is valuable information to many companies. And you have no way. Most people don't read the terms of service. This is going to be a massive problem in the coming years.
What it comes down to is that it's not only that it's the terms of service. It's going to be buried in the terms of service if it's there at all.
And who's going to read it?
Get this information up front.
If
people know about this stuff up front, it makes it less invasive. I think.
Here's the thing, Suncast, do you read the terms of service? No. Eric, how often do you read the terms of service?
Never.
We'll complain about it, of course. That's our job, but I never sit there and read them.
What are you going to do? Not use an iPhone? Not use iTunes? Not use Facebook? They leave you no choice.
You know what's funny? I got asked by a company for them to distribute my content recently. And it's not the big name. So it's not iTunes. It's not Microsoft. It's none of them. And I said, okay, I think it's great that we're going to do all these features and all this stuff. And then I read the terms of service. And in the terms of service, it says, by being on our website, you can now, the content is actually belonging to us, and we could distribute it in any way we want, and we could do any type of ads that we want on your content. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. And they're telling me, and I wrote this, and I'm like, well, I read your terms of service. They go, oh, no, that's just there. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to. You can't say it's just there. So it's interesting that we don't read these things, and who knows how many things we agree to that are not necessarily any up and up.
And I think this brings up an interesting issue for people. You know, it gets very political when you talk about government regulation, but I think something that everyone should allow and agree with is at least demand disclosure rules, disclosure regulations. Tell us who you're sending the data to. If not,
exactly.
You want hands off. Don't tell the companies how to run their business. That's fine, but at least tell us who it is, what they're doing with it. If they know, why can't we know?
Why can't we know? Exactly.
Well, this is very similar to another story that I picked out this week with the whole Facebook thing, because we've known that Facebook has had a lot of privacy issues.
Hang on a second. That is what you call an excellent transition. An excellent transition.
See, I'm good at this.
You're very good at this. Continue. Sorry.
Well, no, because it needs to be these sort of things that have to do with privacy. Anything that has to do with privacy and sending and using your information, I think needs to be opt-in. That means that it shouldn't do anything unless I explicitly give my permissions and say it's okay for you to collect this information and use it for diagnostic purposes.
But here's the fact of the matter. You're useless to this company now. Especially to Facebook.
That should be my choice.
Yeah, especially to Facebook. I mean, if you look at what Facebook is doing, it's a free service, and they want to mine all the data that they want because they're selling it off. I mean, that's the fact. It's very interesting, and I'm curious to see what happens with this in the coming years and how this affects us and the way that we use these devices day to day. I've always been one of those people. I never trust these devices, especially like a Facebook or any of these social networks, and I really don't put stuff I don't want out there, because I don't know what they're doing with it. I know to an extent you can't. To an extent you could not put stuff, but if it's on your laptop, if it's all these companies doing it, it's very difficult to kind of pull back and not put whatever you want to put on there. But I do want to go to the next story, which is the AT&T T-Mobile debacle. I just want to pat myself on the back on this. I do, because when this happened, I had a feeling this was not going to get approved, considering we would be down to one GSM provider in this country, one major GSM provider in this country. It does not look good for the merger.
AT&T is mad about
this. Of course they're mad, because now they have to pay $3 billion or $4 billion to T-Mobile for that breakup deal. They're saying that the FCC considers this one-sided. I'm actually surprised that.
What happened is that AT&T decided they would withdraw their approval request from the FCC.
Yeah, because
they don't necessarily need FCC's approval in order to do this merger. But what they did in withdrawing their application was to try and stop this report from coming out. And AT&T was upset because they didn't want this report coming out, and they didn't have any time to really look over the report before it came out, and they're mad at the FCC for that.
Well, the FCC stated that it would cause massive job losses and less competition, which is correct. Eric, do you think that, are you surprised by this, or did you expect it to kind of fall apart?
I'm pleased, but also surprised. I think it's the first really line in the sand that has been made in the last, maybe even 10 years as far as major mergers and consolidation have gone. So is it good? It's absolutely good. I mean, it would have been terrible if this had gone through. So I'm glad that the FCC and the Department of Justice have looked at this and said, yeah, there's no way this would be good for consumers.
Do you feel that? I have a feeling that if it was another company that was merging, it would have been okay. But because it's AT&T and they were forced to break up their company, people look at them and saying, okay, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger now.
Well, that and the fact that there's only 2 GSM carriers.
And the fact that they kind of merged with Singular, Singular went away.
Yeah.
So we really have nothing left. But the other outcome is that Deutsche Telekom, which owns T-Mobile, could pretty much take this company and break it apart and sell the technology and sell the company off that way.
It could, but AT&T and T-Mobile are actually working on a plan B, if you will, right now to have some sort of sharing spectrum license or agreement so that they can actually still use T-Mobile spectrum that they're looking for, but not necessarily have to break off this whole deal and pay them $4 billion for it.
I can tell you, Sprint's happy.
I'm happy.
You are. Well, you are a T-Mobile user, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I think.
Well, and your concern is that it would
have something like this. Everybody knows that mergers usually, almost always, ends up in one company, whichever the company that's being gobbled up, to have job losses.
Sure.
That's a proven fact. Come on. I don't understand. Basically, the
entire
FCC
point.
said,
Yeah,
you, AT&T, are a liar
efficient.
because there's no way that you're going to have all these jobs created that you're talking about. There's just no way. That's just not the way mergers happen.
No, what's going to happen is that they're going to show what they're going to show is that they're probably going to open up a data center somewhere and be like, look at all the jobs AT&T created. But you got rid of 1,500 jobs, but you created 300 jobs. And
they're probably...
Go ahead.
They're probably much lower level for lower pay with no benefits.
Exactly.
They're short term. They're temporary. On and on and on.
Exactly.
I just don't understand how AT&T says that this will make them more competitive or the competitiveness will be the same. When you look at some of the plans that they have, and this is my big issue with AT&T that I really don't like is their text messaging plans. I simply don't understand how they're going to have an a la carte plan, but then the only other plan is unlimited for $20 a month. There's nothing in between for anybody else. So neither plan really makes sense for anybody that is a light text message user that's using less than 500 text messages.
Texting is a big
month.
scam to begin with, right? I mean,
well, Suncast, as we all know, as the years go on and the technology improves, that 1 kilobyte text message only ever costs more to send and costs more to store.
Yeah.
That's not even a kilobyte, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, how big is a text? I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. And from what I've read, from what other researchers, New York Times posted a thing a couple of months ago about this. They talked to a telecom researcher who knew about this and said text messages are effectively free for the cell carriers. So it's over 1,000% markup, he calculated, once they charge the customer.
That's unbelievable.
That's why I don't understand how they can get away with charging per message or $20 a month.
Well, they're getting away with it
because you're basically
because
screwed if you're doing the 20 cents per message plan. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever.
You know what's fascinating? How everybody pretty much that has a smartphone has some sort of internet enabled on their phone. You're kind of forced to at this point, and we are still doing text messaging. That's the thing that I'm actually surprised about because text messaging is kind of obsolete if you have internet access on your phone. You no longer need text messaging or MMS.
Well, here's the problem is text messaging and SMS is a universal system. Anybody who has a cell phone has it, and you can text them. With these, when you have Wi-Fi or internet connection on your phone now, you have to have some sort of application that all your friends are on at the same time. That's how that works. And so you have to have all your friends on there. But if all your friends aren't on there, then what's the point?
I'll give an example. I don't know anybody using the iMessage service.
There's also Kick Messenger.
Kick, yeah, there's Kick.
And probably 3 other multi-network, multi-service platforms out there for the cell phone that work over Wi-Fi and the internet.
Eric, are you using iMessage?
Yes, I am. And I was about to ask because I'm confused. You said you don't know anyone who is using it?
Is using it, yeah.
Well, remember, it's by
surprised.
default. Do you have I thought you had an iPhone.
I actually I have an iPod Touch. My wife has an iPhone.
Oh, okay.
But I'll give you an example. Like the iMessage, I know a lot of people that that have iPhones and they do regular SMS to each other, not the iMessage to each other.
Well, I don't think that's an option. I mean, I think you can turn it either on or off, but I believe that once it's on, it's just as someone is trying to contact me now. Once it's on, everything goes through that as long as it can. I've seen examples of people that I know have iPhones and sometimes it works and it's a little blue message and it has all the benefits of iMessage, and sometimes same person, same phone, it's green and it says delivered via SMS. I don't know why that is, but it's supposed to be transparent and happening in the background.
I'm curious about that because I looked at my wife's and everything is going through SMS and not iMessage to iPhone owners. So I couldn't understand why it was doing that. I wonder if it has something to do with setting up the account properly.
Oh, sorry. Did you say it was not, her phone was just completely not doing the iMessage?
It's not doing the iMessage to people. I mean, it'll do it to me because I'll message her with iMessage on my iPod Touch, and I'll receive it back, through iMessage, of course. And it shows that it's going through iMessage on our end. But when she's doing it to a regular phone, someone with an iPhone, it's always SMS.
That's weird.
Yeah.
As far as I know, this is the only option you have right here. It's settings and then a new area called messages in iOS 5. And it just says iMessage on or off. And then it just says send as SMS when iMessage is unavailable, on or off. So they don't, I don't know why it's not failing, because it seems not to be, it seems like that behavior that she's experiencing is not technically supposed to be an option.
I got to take a look at it. Because I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why I wouldn't do it? But, Suncast brought up something interesting. There are these other services like Kik and all these other services, 1,000 of them. I wonder if they could unify in some way and be like, okay, you know what? We are going to compete with SMS. This is going to be the unified model. We'll be able to share the network with each other. I mean, I'm wondering if that would be possible. You kind of have that
now with AIM and some other service. I think MSN, they've hooked up, and you can talk to AIM, AOL message people, and MSN, but it's still, you have to have your friends on there.
Sure, that's the hard part.
SMS, that's all handled by the carrier.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Every carrier has it.
I agree. We need a new standard, and if we can make it an internet standard, and even broadening out from that, make it a standard for all types of media, have the rights and the copyright included as part of it if you wish, who's the owner, who created it, all this stuff into a little bundle. It's an idea I've tossed around a lot before. I don't know how it's ever going to happen, but I think of how email, we need the next email, right? Email was designed by a guy and given away completely free. He took no royalties. He made filed no patents, and yet it's still today the system we use because it's free, it works, and every system can work with it. It's all compatible.
Yeah, it is interesting. We do need a new standard with it. Interesting thing that wasn't in the news and in the story, we were off for a couple of weeks, but I did want to talk about it because it is a very interesting idea. Steve Jobs, with the creation of the iPhone, did not initially want to go with a carrier. He wanted to build his own internet-based network, which I found very interesting. I mean, I'm not surprised that Steve would want to do that and Apple would want to do that, but this is probably 2005, 2006, prior to the announcement. They were thinking about this, but maybe that is the future in this. Maybe eventually we'll be so wired that we don't need the carriers, and it'll just all be Wi-Fi enabled. I mean, we're seeing that now.
That'd be nice.
New York City is behind this behind this citywide Wi-Fi program where they want to eventually, I think by like 2020, which is a long time from now, they want the entire city to have Wi-Fi access.
That's like 20 million years away.
Of course, yeah. Who knows if it'll ever happen, but maybe that is the future. Maybe Steve was absolutely right. That's where the service needs to be because it's much more reliable than holding your phone and looking for service. I still have no Verizon service.
It's interesting. I wouldn't say Wi-Fi is more reliable, and I think that's one of the things that holds it back. I think it was never really designed to be a blanket system the way that cellular service, 2G, 3G, 4G, WiMAX, LTE were designed to be just, blanket everywhere. And in fact, WiMAX, which is now dropping out of popularity so that even Sprint and Clearwire, the biggest WiMAX supporter, is now going to LTE. WiMAX, I remember from like 2004 or so when it was first talked about, was supposed to be the first really wide area Wi-Fi. Like it was supposed to do what Wi-Fi could never really do, which is to like blanket a whole area, send a lot of waves with high bandwidth a long distance for through buildings, through walls, that kind of thing. Wi-Fi was just never really built for that. Not built for just a large scale. It's very nodal, right? You just hop between nodes. So what I think what we're going to see though is that to have a new technology as big and as robust as WiMAX or LTE, it requires someone to go out and build it, and that person could be a carrier. Yeah. Remember, Wi-Fi exists purely because it was unlicensed spectrum. You didn't need to buy a grant or lease the spectrum from the government. Everything else is WiMAX, LTE. So as long as you have to lease the spectrum and not use it for free, that's going to require a so-called carrier.
Yeah. There has to be. Well, WiMAX is nearly dead at this point, right? I mean, Sprint was the one behind it, and I think they're going to support it till 2015, and then they're dropping it after that. I guess they're just switching everything over. Another thing, I mean, it's just fascinating how Eric, you said something so interesting. Everything is just happening now in front of us, and there's so many players in the game where it's so new. It's the Wild West, really, with all these things that are happening. We don't know what's going to happen in 10, 15 years. They could all go away, and there could be a new standard. I mean, that it just could happen like that overnight.
Yeah, we're in a period of just amazingly fast change, like more than I think we ever had at any real point in the 90s. I mean, it's the kind of change that comes in very big bursts. And right now, we're, especially with telecommunications, privacy, copyright, all that stuff, broadband, it's all jumbled up, and there's going to be a lot of chaos, and we're going to come out at the other side very different than how we came in.
Yeah, I mean, the last 5 years, it's been phenomenal. You look at from 2005 to now, communications has total. I mean, it's totally sped up.
Part of that too, it's just everybody is trying to do their own thing. Nobody has some sort of standard.
Yeah, and who knows?
Because people can't agree on. All right, well, what should we use? And it's like every carrier having their own frequency, and nobody's using the same exact frequency.
Yeah. I want to talk about. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just to finish, there's a big sense of a gold rush, with this kind of a thing, which kind of leads. It is a Wild West metaphor because everyone wants to, go into the seeking fame and fortune. That's why they don't want to make a standard. They don't want to get together and say, "Hey guys, what can we agree to share?" They want to be the only standard, and they want to have the standard, and they want everyone to go through their system.
Yeah,
I'm king of the hill.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You know what? One thing that is fascinating, and then I want to go to the next story. The fact that CDMA has turned out to be the number one carrier and I guess a service in the United States. It seems like CDMA kind of won, right, over GSM in the States. Which, if you go back to 2005, I was just reading an article from 2005. They were saying it's over for CDMA. GSM is the way, and they're going to be the fastest providers when it comes to data. And it's totally spun around, and CDMA with LTE is the one to be with.
So I know exactly. I heard the same thing back then. So what did they say? Why it is? Is it just because of Verizon's aggressive 3G rollout?
I think that's why. Because technically, GSM is a better technology. But
yeah, it's faster and more robust. I've heard it's funny. It's like the actual voice codec is not as strong. It's not as good or robust. But I think it's like better distance and for data, the data standard is better.
Yeah, which it totally changed. So it changes overnight. Who knows what's going to happen? Verizon Galaxy Nexus rumored to be landing at Best Buy on December 11th. This is becoming very interesting to me because there is no release date for this stupid phone. We've seen it. We've seen it release. And I'm being very angry at it. We saw it released in Canada and we saw it overseas, but in the States, there's really nothing because Verizon has still to announce that we are getting this phone. So as of today, we don't even know if we're getting this thing officially or when. Drop the ball? I don't know. It's interesting to me because this is going to be the flagship Android phone. It's going to be the first one with Ice Cream Sandwich. It's going to be the first one with 4.0, which I think is going to be released with 4.1. If this is your flagship and this is what's going to separate your phone from all the other ones on the market, and you're going to say, well, this is the one to get. This is the best Android phone on the market. Nothing comes close to this. And you know what? We are competing with the iPhone, and we are competing with this one. Why would you not have a release date? It's 9 days away, apparently, and we don't know anything about it. Strange.
They like to play these close to the wire. I noticed. Remember they did that with when the BlackBerry's when the Motorola Zoom was demonstrated. It was like a month before release, and the press demonstration they couldn't touch it. It was just a video running on the screen.
Yeah.
And BlackBerry did the same thing with the PlagueBook.
Yeah.
And we've seen this
stuff
a lot. I don't know why. I guess manufacturing, of all these little electronic parts overseas has gotten just so down to the second with inventory that they can just they don't know until the next week whether it's going to come out.
Yeah, that's scary though, huh? The fact that it's that close. Or my idea was that they were experiencing a lot of problems on the network, and they said, you know what, we can't put out a date until we fix the problem.
Whatever the reason may be, though, is I think these sort of delays are always a doom for products, because I don't know very many products that have had these sort of delays that once they do finally come out, it's all that it lives up to be, because people have expectations.
Actually, yes, and you
when
know who did that?
Expectations.
I'll tell you who did that. BlackBerry did that with their Storm. I don't know if you remember.
They always do that.
They had 3 or 4 delays.
Right,
they had 3 or 4 delays with that
intended.
Storm. And if that Storm had come out, in my opinion, on time, it might have been a different story for the device. I know it would not have competed with the iPhone. I mean, we all could agree on that. But I think it would have sold differently, because I went to go buy that Storm when it came out.
Yeah, it would have sold different, but it was still a crappy device.
It was a crappy device, yes. But I went to go buy that Storm. I waited online for about 3 hours. Because I was going from a Trio to that Storm, and I didn't want to get an iPhone at that point because I was on Verizon. I waited online, and you had to see the line for this device. It was wrapped around the Verizon, and there's like 4 or 5 Verizon stores on the same strip where I was at, and every store had a line out the door for the stupid phone. And this was delayed 3 or 4 times from the original date, and it came out at the point, and then people were like, "Wow, this is awful," and they forgot about it. But when you're Google and you're Verizon and they have this great team up together, you're releasing this Galaxy Nexus that it's supposed to be the flagship. You should have a date set for it. We saw it with the Motorola not the Bionic. What was the other one? The Razr. We saw, they announced it, and there was a 1 month wait, and they said, okay, it's coming out on this day. This is the day of the release. This is the day for pre-launch, and now you're getting it on this day. We have not seen this. It's very surprising to me. And again,
what this shows you is that it's very hard to bring a product to the market. And the bottom line is these sort of delays are never very good. Never. That's the bottom line. And it's just hard to balance the two between, all right, well, how much of a delay can we realistically have so that we can make this device the best we can before it's released?
Yeah, so if it's coming out on the 11th because it's showing up in the Best Buy inventory system, which, I mean, I guess that's some sort of validation right there. You're 9 days away from a launch for the flagship Android phone, and there's nothing about it. I mean, mainstream knows nothing.
That's why I've always liked Apple, and when they announced the iPhone, because it's
an event, yeah.
There's always tons of rumors.
Yeah.
But then it's not until they actually have the big conference and the announcement that, all right, well, you can buy this in 30 days.
Well, Apple does a great job at convincing you that you need a device when you don't even need it. That's what they're very good at. They can convince anybody to buy anything, which that's been
anything.
My eye anything. Eric, do you think this is Google's beta mentality striking again? With the fact that they do this with a lot of things. They don't deploy things on the proper time, and then they take stuff back, and then they cancel it. Is this Google doing it, or do you think this is probably Verizon saying, well, you know what? This is not ready for prime time. We need to fix this, this, and this.
That's a good question. It's a different way of looking at the beta mentality of Google than I usually look at it. I think they're just trying to go as fast as they possibly can to catch up and exceed where Apple is right now, who continues in many ways to be farther ahead, especially in market share. And just especially in the U.S., consumer excitement and all that stuff, app market. So they've just all these companies are just playing catch up so fast that we see random delays. We see a lot look at the touchpad and the PlagueBook. Products that were shipped before they were fully baked, and the software had to come up in an update to patch it to make it work. I think the Zoom, actually, a lot of Android tablets came out like that. So I guess it's not totally surprising to see it happen with the phones too, and the new 4.0.
Yeah, so December 11th, I'll probably be getting it the day of because I need a new phone at this point, and I don't want to get an iPhone again because I'm already in the iOS experience, and to be able to comment about this stuff and to be able to discuss this stuff, I kind of have to be in all of the environments. So I was probably going to get this phone And I hope that it's somewhat of a competitor, because the current phones on the market are not iOS competitors. They're not iPhone competitors, because the iPhone is overall, I mean, it's just a better phone. And I know I say that all the time, and I get these emails calling me an idiot. Oh, you're such an idiot because you could do this with the Google phone and you can't do it with the iOS. Yeah, of course, there's going to be that. There's going to be certain things that you can do with Android that you can't do on the iPhone, or it performs better in certain situations. But overall, for the average user, the iPhone is a much better experience than an Android phone. I don't think anybody could deny that.
It's a better gestalt. It's the better overall package. If you had to recommend one phone for everybody, one size fits all, the iPhone is still the one to recommend.
And I tell that to people. I'm like, listen, I don't want to get an iPhone, and I'm not going to get an iPhone, but I'm in the environment. I have 1,000 iOS devices, and it's a lot better than what you could do with Android, because Android is just not complete to me for whatever reason. And it's interesting how they're able to...
The whole cohesiveness of the phone and the operating system and the hardware, just have it all come together like it has with Apple.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not fair for me to analyze this device because I don't have it yet, so maybe this device will be unbelievable and it'll be the one to get. Windows 8
but we don't know because it's not out yet.
We don't know. Windows 8 public beta out February. This is a month off from the initial beta date that we had heard, and I still think this is wrong. I think the beta will be out in January. My sources say. I'm not going to say what my sources are, but I think it's going to be January. This is becoming a very interesting launch for Microsoft, and I'll tell you why. They are theoretically releasing two separate devices, two separate operating systems. They have the ARM version, which is not backwards compatible with the desktop version, but it's the same operating system, but split. I think rightfully so. I would not want to use 32-bit, the standard Windows applications on my tablet running this beautiful operating system, and it's this nice look, and then all of a sudden you go into Windows mode. I don't want that, and I don't think anybody does. But it's going to be confusing to a lot of people. I think that's where they're going to encounter an issue. People are not going to be able to distinguish tablet Android, ARM version of Windows, and everything else. The beta is coming out in February, according to this, and it's going to be pretty much ready for RTM in June. So we're going to see, a summer release of this device. I don't know. It's a little scary that they're speeding things up, considering Windows 7 came out in November, and the time frame is a lot quicker for this. So unless they have a lot more people on the team building this, I don't know if that's going to really work out in their favor. I'll go to Eric on this first. Eric, what do you think of this so far? Considering the fact that, A, they're speeding the release up. It's going to be out, it's going to be finished in June. B, it's going to be one operating system, but two different versions, and one is not backwards compatible with other applications. Is that going to hurt them?
Oh, sorry. Did they say that both the ARM and the x86 versions will come out at the same time?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I suspect that the June release, if there is going to be something in June, will be the ARM version. That's the version they have to get to market much faster than the others.
Yeah.
That's the one that they have to get to market to compete, where they have no competition, really. I mean, they got Windows Phone 7, but they've got nothing for tablets, Get that to market, get that into tablets, get that into other small, very battery-powered, low-power devices, small form factors, touch-based. Get that out there for that kind of devices which probably wouldn't be running an Intel chip anyway. Atom still has a while to go before it can really match ARM in terms of power efficiency. So get that to market first, because there's no backwards compatibility with that anyway. Then spend longer time tweaking and optimizing for developers and the end users the Windows 8 for your Intel, your desktops, your laptops, the traditional Windows experience.
7 months away, and we don't really have any kind of applications or a platform for this. This is getting scary, because I think they're pushing. I understand why they're pushing it early, but they are pushing it a little too fast. Because this would make or break for the operating system, in my opinion. I'm not going to call it another Vista, because I don't think Vista was a major overhaul like this. Vista's issue was that it got awful reviews in the beginning, and it was sluggish at first, but they did clean up their image towards the end. But it was still Windows. It was a traditional Windows. If this flops or this fails to meet expectations, it's going to be a awful situation for them to kind of backpedal because they can't say, okay, you know what, you guys, you're right. We're not going to do this anymore. We're going back to traditional Windows. They're not going to do that.
Right.
Suncast, you're using... Go ahead.
Are you talking about the desktop version? Or are you talking about the version for tablets?
I'm talking about both.
Well, because there was an article, I think earlier this week or last week, that some analyst was saying, well, because there's not any Windows tablets out now, it's already botched.
No.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just something to think about.
I think they have a great advantage. I think Windows does have the advantage in this, and they could potentially, again, very bold words, but they could potentially overthrow iOS as the king of the tablets because you have this backwards compatibility between your home operating system and your tablet. Many people are not going to get the ARM. I know the ARM will probably sell the best, but many people are going to have, you know, a Intel-based tablet that's running everything.
I think what I'm worried about here
it's going to be confusing. I think it's going to be very confusing with the fact that...
That's what I'm worried about is, are people going to be confused? It's Windows. Can't you just use any Windows application on it?
That's what's going to happen. I think people at first are going to go out and they're going to buy this, you know, $299 or $399 device.
The only real comparison I can think of to something like that is Macintosh and the iOS operating system. Yeah, it's all made by Apple, but the applications are pretty much different. You can't necessarily download and play Angry Birds on your Mac.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, though? Maybe Apple is going in that direction. We know that we're going to becoming an app state of computing. Everything is an app, and everything is this very easy to use layout. We saw that with our iLaunch. I think it's called Launcher, right? In the Mac, I think it's called Launcher.
You're asking me?
No, I'm talking to myself, I guess.
Oh, Launchpad.
Yeah, Launchpad. So we do see that kind of app way of doing it, and we do understand that they're kind of merging into this one type of operating system, but Apple's not coming out and saying, okay, well, you know what? You have Chrome on the Mac, but you're not going to have that on the iPad. But it's the same operating system. You have everything here. I think that's the wrong model, and I think that's the wrong way of kind of leading your customer base into buying your devices. This might get really confusing for people. And I'm not talking about you and I again. I'm talking about, let's say, your grandmother. Yeah, I'm talking about the average person. I'm talking about your grandmother that, you know, they have a computer at home. They're not
the person that hasn't bought a new computer in 5 years.
Sure. And they go out and they go, wow, look, a Windows tablet. I could have my stuff on here. I could have everything that I do on here. And they're going to go home. They're going to be like, I don't know what do I do?
You mean this isn't an iPad?
Yeah. Because they're still called Windows 8. It's still called Windows 8. I think that's where the problem is going to be. Naming something with the same name that does two totally different things.
Yes, I totally agree with that, Andrew. I'm glad you said that because I think they should never have called it Windows at all. For the simple, like, why is Windows Phone 7 called Windows Phone? There's not a window in it.
Yeah.
There are no windows in Windows Phone 7. It's Tiles. Either call it Tiles 1 or give it a different name. The Windows name has too much negative context for all that's bad about Microsoft, right?
Yeah, especially in the mobile world. I mean, you know what? Windows Mobile, which, yeah, it deserved a Windows name. It was a mini version of Windows at one point. But at first, you know what it was called? It was called Pocket PC. It wasn't even called Windows. But you're right. They have to go to a different name. And I pick Kin. I think they should go with the Kin name. Because that was a great device. But you know what I mean? It's a very interesting marketing thing, and I know Microsoft is not the greatest thing with the names. And this might hurt them again with the fact that it's the same operating system, yes, but one is extremely limited compared to the other one, depending on a processor. So it's not even like on tablets you can't do this, but on Windows-based on a desktop you can. It's certain tablets you can do this, and certain tablets you cannot. And I think that's what's going to affect them in the long run. Might get really confusing.
I would agree with that because how are they going to differentiate this? How are they going to market it? And how are people going to necessarily know the difference?
Yeah, I don't think they are.
I think it's possible that it could be done, but until it actually happens, until people actually get this, until we actually see how it all comes together, we don't know.
Yeah, somebody actually in the chat room, Anthony Camp in our chat room said something interesting. He goes, all tablets are going to be called iPads by clueless people, the same way inline skates are called rollerblades or tissues are called Kleenex. I think you're absolutely right. I think in 10 years, everything's going to be called an iPad.
Well, name another brand of inline skate.
I can't.
Right. Well, it's yeah, but I think the average consumer probably can name a different brand of tablet because for the most part, it's the same brands that they're used to with PCs and phones.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see where that goes. Nielsen reporting TV ownership on the decline. Not surprised, but interesting that we're seeing this happen. According to Nielsen's annual television audience reports that was released last week, the number of households with TV sets are on the decline. The rising trend of TV ownership has been leveled off in recent years. The number dropped from 115.9 million households in 2011 to 114.7 in 2012 due to the economy or due to cord cutters. I know many people, especially my age, that are, they got their apartments and they really don't have a TV and they do everything on their computer. Is it necessary to have a TV? I'll go with Suncast on this first. Suncast, your opinion.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, like you said. It's part of just cord cutting altogether, but it's also part of the economy because cutting the cord is meant to actually save you money. So they both go hand in hand, I think. Me personally, in some ways I need a TV, but in other ways I don't need a TV because I use a lot of my multimedia stuff on my computer. I like watching it on my computer. Part of that, though, is because I have an old, crappy TV, so it looks better watching it on my computer.
But you don't have the urge to go and buy a 50-inch flat screen and put in your room, You don't have that.
I have a little bit of an urge.
Okay, you do. Okay.
Not really. I watch more stuff on my computer and online than I do on the TV. Okay. So my TV is for, if I'm going to bed, I can't necessarily take my entire computer with me to bed,
I think many people are just doing the laptops. Eric, are you a cord cutter or are you? I've never asked that. You are? Okay. I didn't know that.
I absolutely am.
What do you?
It's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of times where I wish I could just turn on the TV, but it's not worth, it's not worth the price of a TV plus $100 or more a month for me because I don't have time. I don't really like much TV. The stuff I like, I target, I find, I watch.
Sure,
it's a burden to search for stuff, and you have to deliberately find what you want, and you have to remember what's there, and you have to build your own DVR by scavenging basically. So it's not ideal. But it's just the amount that I would actually watch if I had it would not come close to justifying the cost.
No, and I'll tell you something. If I told you how much I spend a month on my cable alone is $220 a month for my cable because we have 5 rooms with 5 cable boxes and we have 2 DVRs and we have all the premiums because you're kind of forced into that package because we have the Fios with it. And if you cut here, they're going to put it up there. So they kind of force you into this package so you get everything. I do not watch 99% of the channels on there. I have not watched anything.
You're too busy working.
I am too busy working. But when I do want to watch something, I can't find it or it's not on DVR. And the other day I was laying in bed, I'm like, I don't understand why I'm paying for this. Just put a Roku box in every room and there you go. You have something. Find it.
Yeah, they've made it so hard to find.
You can't find House Hunters International online.
You can't. I'm sorry. I know it's a big thing. I listen. Just because I need to watch my Gilmore Girls and my Veronica Mars does not mean I just don't understand the mentality where you kind of force them. But I think a lot of people, this generation now, is realizing you really don't need a TV. You don't need cable. I could just watch everything.
Yourself the money by not having it, Yeah,
you know what you do? You get Hulu and you get Netflix and you watch everything on there and whatever else you want to find. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
And there's a lot more competing for our non-reading, our just space out attention. We've got video games are much more fun now. Blu-ray, well, I guess that still is basically a TV, but YouTube. I've heard demographics. A lot of young kids who wouldn't normally have TVs in their rooms are now just spending all their time on YouTube, just watching whatever's on the homepage.
My younger brothers are part of that YouTube generation that they get all their entertainment from YouTube.
That's funny.
Everything.
I have to say, I find that hard to understand because I was never really wanted to sit and just watch whatever was on, and I go to YouTube and I see the things on the home page, and it's like I would have no interest in
in it. Yeah, but I'll tell you what it is. I think that it's conditioning of sorts, right? You're kind of getting conditioned to watching things that you normally wouldn't. The bar is being dropped because it's online, so the content, the quality doesn't need to be there,
and I think young kids, especially, that they get access to a lot more risque
stuff,
language latent material than they'd probably be allowed to watch on their TVs.
But the other thing is the fact that they don't have the attention span to watch a 30-minute program, so they're watching these 5-minute, 10-minute videos, and they're like boom, 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 boom. It's just content overload. It's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
I have to
The
say
next
though, you
generation
gotta
is
love
doomed.
you gotta love Nielsen ratings. They got to be the only, Nielsen, obviously, the venerable TV ratings company. It's got to be the only company in the world where a 1% change is raised the alarms.
Yeah.
Most people would say, well, we have 1%. That's negligible. It's a margin of error. Nielsen, oh my God, 1%, everything's changing.
Well, for Nielsen, that's a big deal because their entire business is based off of television content.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's kind of They percentage of TVs with households watching. They always go in like those little tiny 1%, 1.5%, like razor thin margins. So it's amusing.
Cyber Monday, $1.25 billion in sale this year, up 22% over the previous year, according to ComScore. I didn't notice anything big, but why do we even have these days? I don't understand that. Because you're buying stuff on Black Friday online anyway.
It's because we have dial-up at
It's just
home, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're still doing like Black Friday deals. It's not like Black Friday does not exist for the internet. So we've kind of made it into like this weekend thing, right? We have the Black Friday weekend.
You got to love how cyber is not even a word we use anymore.
No, who uses that?
People who have dial-up, apparently.
Yeah. The cyber world. Did you buy anything, Eric?
Oh, me? No, I looked for Black Friday deals. What I've been really needing is hard drives. I think I may have told you I missed the curve by days before the hard drives tripled in price because of that flood in Thailand.
I just paid $125 for a 1 terabyte drive.
Yeah, I bought a 2 terabyte drive for $79 just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow, that's really good. That's actually really good.
Well, no. I mean, that was before the flood. So you snooze, you lose, because now I need a lot more, and they're 2-3 times the price.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find any deals on hard drives. I did a cursory search for some other stuff, looked at some like video game deals, just found nothing. So I don't think I bought anything at all on Black Friday.
I mean, you could get these deals, and this is the funny thing. Most of the deals, except for that, the doorbuster $1,000 TV. That's $400 now. You can find
so you didn't pepper spray anyone for an Xbox, Andrew?
No, I did not. You know what? I'll tell you something. My wife did Black Friday one year, and she went to there's like an outlet mall miles away from me. I mean, it's maybe 50 miles away. So she drove there at 10 o'clock. She got there at 11, and she had to literally hop like a 12-foot fence to go into the parking lot because she parked somewhere else. And I'm like, are you crazy? I'm like, what do we need that bad that you need to hop a fence?
The adrenaline, come on.
She tore her jacket. I'm like, how much money did you save? She goes, $150. I'm like, now you need to go buy a new jacket. You saved nothing.
Yeah,
it's an experience.
That's a good
Something
point.
you got to experience once in your life.
I guess, but
just like skydiving.
No, I don't need that experience. I don't need the experience of getting maced.
You got to trample someone at least once in life to get that PlayStation. No, it's like, it's deceptive. I would like to see a scientific study on how much money is actually saved on Black Friday sales. Because I know from looking at Amazon, that's actually one of the reasons that on Black Friday, I quickly just turned away and just thought, well, this Amazon Black Friday site, I couldn't begin to know what is really a deal. Because they do the same game that I used to see with musical instrument stores. Their sales are like 99% off, but their usual everyday price tag is 53% off or 70% off because it's an arbitrary list price that they never sell it that much for. So it's hard to know what is actually a savings.
I don't know.
I honestly don't think any of the deals for Black Friday or Cyber Monday were really that good. I was particularly looking at like flash and jump drives, and I was only seeing, I was looking at like 8 gigabyte ones, but they were only like maybe $1 off. Like, what's the point then? What's the point?
Yeah. You know what I bought? I bought a mount for my flat screen for my bedroom. That's what I bought. I always find great deals I paid $4.99 for a mount that's like $100.
Where?
On Deal News.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, dealnews.com. It's actually a really cool site. It's year-round. They have all these great deals, and they had last year too. I bought 2 mounts because I mounted 2 TVs last year, and this year I just bought one. It was like $6.99 or $4.99 something, or $8.99 something like that for like $100 flat screen mount for the TV.
Speaking of that, Andrew, I didn't see it in your list of stories here because I think it just broke like right before we started. But I saw a story that Google has Actually, I don't think they've announced. I think they someone mentioned to the Wall Street Journal, there's some kind of rumor now floating around, a very detailed, specific rumor that Google is taking on Amazon and Amazon Prime. They don't like the fact that many more product searches begin on Amazon.com than begin on Google.com. Yeah. Their Google product search has kind of languished in popularity. They're now supposedly trying to offer next day free or very reduced price shipping to compete with Amazon Prime to people who just use and purchase products through Google's product search. So you wouldn't be buying things, you wouldn't be paying Google specifically or buying it through Google's own warehouse. They're not doing that, but they're going to partner and do some kind of delivery, partner with UPS, partner with the various people whose sites they crawl, and try to have some kind of Amazon competitor in the Google product search.
Yeah, I'm looking at
two of those companies that I can remember off the top of my head, I believe, were Office Max and Macy's.
Okay, so two major companies, but this is formerly known as Frugal, right? This is the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Eric was saying, they're mad because everybody's going to Amazon to type in their searches rather than Google.
Yeah, but Amazon is a, it's a store. Google does not have that store unless they're planning on becoming,
No, they do. You can search on Google and it will bring up items in Amazon.
So they're going to have, I don't think that's going to work. I really don't think that's going to work. Eric, you think they could be competitive with Amazon with their Prime service?
No, I'm very skeptical. This seems like one of those moves that Google, I thought, had learned their lesson about. It's trying to compete with a very hands-on service with a very disorganized, totally aggregated, completely hands-off, completely automated computer-run service. They won't be selling any products themselves. They're just going to search. You're just going to move your query to the queries of other online merchants and then offer a way to buy it through there, but then you get a deal that you wouldn't get if you went through the site itself. I mean, it sounds confusing for a little gain.
Yeah. Maybe they're looking to get into that world. I mean, Google is becoming a centralized hub for everything. I know that's what they're trying to be, but maybe that's what the next thing is. They want to get into the retail business when it comes to having an online store.
Internet.
It's called, I know.
There's been some articles recently about how Google has become Microsoft, and I think that it's something you don't like to see them do, which is to compete in new areas by throwing in size as opposed to ingenuity or better ideas, right? They're buying companies. They bought ITA to get into airline search. They bought, lots of companies along the way, and almost everything they're in except for their core search business, right, is usually a purchased product, and to just go after Amazon just through sheer force of size and partnerships, I think it's a little Microsofty.
It is a little Microsofty, and we saw what happened with Microsoft in the 90s with abandoned projects, tons of abandoned projects, and we have seen that with Google. I mean, over the last 2 years, two major things that they came up with, which was their Wave service, Google Wave, which was a big deal. They had a whole press conference over that. And their Google Buzz.
Null.
Google what?
Null.
Yeah, null. But we haven't really seen too much development with their voice. I mean, still we're looking for integration with talk in voice, and we have not seen that. So it's fascinating how they're deploying certain things and buying certain things up and not incorporating them in their projects.
I'm still waiting for them to come up with the SIP client for Google Voice.
Yeah. I think many people are. That's the thing. Sanke, so you want to pick one story and then we do our picks?
Yeah, let me see what stories. You know what I do want to talk about, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, was the BlackBerry Playbook and how it's not doing so well. RIM came out and said they lost something like $485 million in the third quarter.
In the third quarter, I mean, that's a whopping number. And you think major companies they have all this money and excess money they can spend, but this is a company that's slowly becoming obsolete. Slowly, very slowly. I still feel that they have quite a few years left, and they could rebound if they come up with a new operating system. But they are not the dominant force in smartphones. And for you to hemorrhage
so much money over this Playbook, I don't even know why they're actually going to release and launch a second generation of this. They have it priced right now at $199, but they're losing so much money that they can't continue to offer deals like that. I mean, yeah, it's great for customers that want to get one, and for app developers that want to get their apps to people, but it's just not sustainable from a financial standpoint.
This is a very interesting
They're going to
thing.
launch a second generation of this and BlackBerry Playbook OS 2.0, which I don't understand why they're doing that, and I don't think that's really a good idea.
Well,
and you can't
go
say we
ahead.
didn't warn them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad to see. It's sad. I mean, everyone. I don't know anyone who said, "Oh, BlackBerry Playbook is going to take off like wildfire." You know, it's everyone saw this coming, and it's sad to watch. 'Cause it's like watching like a friend in like a downward spiral. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're like, no, don't do that. Everyone sees, don't do that. You're hurting yourself. And they're like, no, we're going to do another 2.0. It's like, no, don't.
Don't. You don't
But it's
need
still
to.
on our roadmap. We still
We
gotta
need an
do
intervention
it.
with
We still have
BlackBerry.
2 years left
With
on our
RAM.
roadmap.
They moved 500,000 units the first quarter, which not bad, 250,000 followed by that, and 150,000 in the following one. But they didn't sell 500,000 units. They shipped 500,000 units. Who knows how many of those 500,000 are still on the shelves and where they are? Nobody, you don't know that. I mean, that's the
Well,
thing.
now, let me ask you. You're looking at these numbers: 485 million lost in the third quarter, and looking at 500,000 units for the first quarter, followed by 250 and then 150. Why would you continue? Why would
Because
you launch a second generation of this device that, in its first generation, is failing pretty spectacularly?
because they can't kill it, because that's going to be their future platform on all devices. What they'll eventually
Sure, they
do.
can kill it.
They can, but I don't think that's a smart business move, because that shows you have no faith in the software that's going to lead your company. That's the issue.
I guess,
Are they continuing to call it QNX on the tablet, or are they going to call it whatever they're calling the
I
BlackBerry
think they're going
one?
to call it BBX.
BBX. Okay, so it's all around is going to be BBX.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. This is interesting, but they have lost a lot of money on this, and this shows you how healthy the tablet market is, and it's really not a market. It doesn't exist. Everybody's talking about the Kindle and how great it's selling, and yeah, the Kindle's doing quite well, but you have to remember, the Kindle is not sold as a tablet. It's sold as an ebook reader. That's why it's doing well, because it's an ebook reader with a brand already associated to it. This tablet market is not a market that is fully developed and that these companies fully understand how to sell. That's
I think that's
the
why
issue.
it's going to be really interesting when we see these Windows tablets come out, and after the initial hype, see how things go, because there's always some initial hype, just like with the BlackBerry Playbook. How initially it started off okay. I mean, by BlackBerry standards, it was okay, but only time will tell how well tablets will do in the future, and if Microsoft can really pull it together with the Windows tablet.
Yeah,
You brought up an interesting point, Andrew. I hadn't thought about that. The Fire may be succeeding partly not just because of its price, but because of its marketing message. I think the problem a lot of expensive tablets have had is they try to be a laptop or a phone or a larger phone. And people look at that and say, well, why would I spend $800 for something that I don't even know what I do with, that can't even do what my laptop does? My laptop was cheaper, right? That's been the problem of a lot of Android devices. But when you instead place the device right alongside as the natural progression of your line of e-readers for reading, and then you look at the price and you say, for only $50 more than the black and white one, I could get color, I could read magazines, periodicals, children's books, full web browsing, I could load apps, I could load games if I wanted to, I could browse Amazon, and it makes a value proposition as an e-reader as opposed to a general purpose computer.
Well, at first, when they launched, I couldn't understand, and I was quite critical of Amazon, saying, why are they marketing this as an ebook? Why aren't they marketing it as a tablet? I didn't understand why they were pushing it in that direction, but now it makes sense. They have a tapped-in audience with the Kindle. They know a lot of people are going to probably buy it because A, is cheap, but it's an ebook reader. It's not sold as this computer replacement, which I get it's quite successful for them. All right, why don't we do our picks of the week? For people just tuning in, this is the first time they're watching. We pick a device, software, hardware, whatever, at the end of each Tech News Weekly that we like for that week. I am going to allow Suncast to go first because he needs to queue mine up after his.
Well, I got to queue mine up too, so.
Okay, so Eric, do you want to go first?
Okay, I can go first. My pick is Rayman Origins, new platformer available on all consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, and Wii, although I would highly recommend it on one of the HD consoles. I can't imagine what the Wii version looks like because, first off, it's the most beautiful platformer ever made. Visually, this sets the gold standard for what a two-dimensional side-scrolling game should look like on an HD widescreen 60 frames per second modern display of a modern console. It makes excellent use. The characters are small. They're 1080p, so you can fit a lot on the screen. Good use of the widescreen. The backgrounds, the art style is like the quality of the highest end Disney animation. Even the backgrounds are just gorgeous, like they were hand painted, and they were hand drawn.
Wow.
And the gameplay is this is better than anything that Sonic the Hedgehog's done. I have a soft spot in my heart for platformers because I grew up they were like Mario, Sonic, the first games I ever played, right? So I love Mario games. I love the old Sonic stuff. I was looking forward so much to that Sonic Generations, and they totally botched that. It was supposed to be a return to the 2D Sonic. They screwed it up. The frame rate they cut in half. Its background's too complex. The gameplay sucks. It's just more of going from 100 miles an hour to 0 to dead, and you have no reason why.
Well, I'm looking at the game right now. It looks great.
It is great. Level design is not exactly on par with the Mario stuff, meaning there are some bad, levels here and there. But overall, if you're a fan of platformers, it's a must play. This is better than Donkey Kong Country that came out last year for Wii. They also tried a 2D platformer resurgence. This is very similar. It has 4-player. It's very much like the new Super Mario Bros. From Wii from 2 years ago. I guess that's now the release cycle. Now every Christmas season they come out with a new 2D platformer. But this sets the standard visually. Overall, I'd say it's not as perfect and polished as a Mario game, but visually it blows Super Mario Bros. Wii out of the water. I mean, this is again gold standard of the graphics. It nails platforming in a way that the Sonic the Hedgehog team doesn't know why platforming is fun. They have speed run levels where the whole point is you hold down that run button and you just go left to right as fast as you possibly can without stopping, without getting hit. And it's that kind of fun that people kind of forgot they had back when there were no save game points. When you had to fire up the Super Mario Bros. Game, you started from level 1 and you just had to power through the levels that you had memorized by repetitive play.
Yeah.
They integrate that kind of fun into speed-oriented levels and mix it up with shooter levels and underwater and just. It's a great game. I highly recommend it if you've ever been a fan of Mario or Sonic.
Oh, that's great. I'm definitely going to check it out, actually.
Cool.
Rayman Origins.
Mm-hmm.
Suncast, do you want to go next?
Sure. All right. So my pick this week is a application for Windows called SpeedFan.
Yes, I use it all the time.
Andrew is very familiar with this application because it comes on the computer that he sent me. And why does it come on the computer that he sent me? Well, there's a fan in this case that is really, really, really loud.
CPU fan, right?
What's that?
It's a CPU fan.
Yeah, it's
the
a
thing
CPU
spins.
fan.
Eric, there's something wrong. This fan spins at 6,000 RPM.
What?
It's on this MSI board, and I have two of these MSI boards, and they spin at 6,000 RPM. Is
that even physically possible?
I don't know. The thing is, I mean, it's like
it's gonna open up a wormhole.
It's like a jet.
It's so loud.
Yeah, you've noticed that, right? I mean, it's like a jet that's landing.
Oh my goodness. So what I do with this application is that once I launch it, I can set speed 01 fan to instead of 100%, I'll mark it down to 50%, and that slows it down so that it's not nearly as loud as it would normally be. But this application is more useful than that. It'll also tell you your temperatures of the CPU, your graphics card, your hard drives, and just a whole bunch of information. You can also see the smart information for your hard drive. So if you want to know what's going on with your hard drive more than just the temperature, you can actually do a diagnostics and get the smart information from that hard drive and see if there's any errors whatsoever with it. And it's a pretty cool application. You can get some more information as well. You can see there's other tabs here called clock, info, exotics, and charts. So you can get a whole bunch of information. But I mainly use this so that I can set the fan in here to 50% so that it's not so loud. So if you got a case that has a lot of fan noise, and you want to just kind of make it a little bit quieter, you can use this application SpeedFan to make it spin a little bit slower, and it won't produce nearly as much noise. It's called SpeedFan. The best way to go about finding this application is just to do a web search for SpeedFan. Yeah,
it's a great piece of software. I was using it all the time. I mean, it was extremely necessary, and I have no idea why that fan spins so fast. I think it's something with the motherboard. So my pick actually is a game for the iPad that just came out the other day called Infinity Blade 2, the sequel to Infinity Blade that was released in 2010 in the App Store. It's actually the first iOS game to run on the Unreal Engine 3. It's the fastest grossing app in the history of iOS. It was $1.6 million in 4 days for the original. The sequel was announced at that Apple announcement that we saw in October. And I have to tell you, this game is phenomenal. It is The graphics are just unbelievable, and it takes full advantage of the great chip in these devices. I don't know if you want to play the video there, Suncast. There you go. So you can actually get a little preview of it. It's very easy. It's an action role play game that's fairly easy, and anybody that could play. Pretty much you're a knight, and it's this premise where you have to find somebody, or you have to unlock the somebody. I forgot the name already. And you fight all these other creatures and knights that are higher level than you, and you build up your armor, you build up your XP, and you kind of, from the beginning to the end of the game, you develop your character, and your character gets a lot stronger. You could also buy many items in the store, so you could buy points, I guess the coins, and that translates, and you use those to kind of buy a new sword, or you could power up faster. It's actually a really, really cool game, and I love it, actually. I've been playing it for 2 days now, straight. I play till like 2 o'clock in the morning. I believe it's $6.99 in the App Store. It's not the cheapest game, but I could honestly say it's one of the best looking games on the iOS platform. It's called Infinity Blade 2. If you want to check out Infinity Blade, you can. It still looks great and plays great, and many people are playing it, actually, still. Eric, have you played Infinity Blade?
I haven't, and I was just about to ask you. So, gameplay-wise, because the graphics look stunning, is it like, what are you doing exactly to play? Do you like tap the part of the enemy that you want them to slice at?
So what you do, yes, you tap the screen, so you could do a swipe motion to attack. You do swipe up and down, left and right to do combos. But when the enemy is attacking, you could do left to dodge, right to dodge, or to block. So you don't have too much control like a traditional video game, but it does an unbelievable job at making the experience fairly easy and difficult at the same time, because you have to kind of get into the game to kind of move. You could do potions, you could do different counterattacks. One thing that they added in this version is extra XP, so you have mini gameplays in it. So it says, block 10 times and get extra XP, get 10 XP for blocking 10 times. So you play these mini games in between the game, which actually makes it a lot more fun when you're fighting these, because you have other objectives to follow. I think they do a great job. They actually said that Infinity Blade was developing a game for the Kinect. I don't know if that ever came out. It was in 2009 they were developing it. So it would be interesting to see how this game would play on that kind of platform as well. But great game. I encourage everybody to check it out. I'm doing a little review on it because I like it so much. And that's Infinity Blade in the App Store. So check it out. Guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you hanging out. I had a lot of fun today. Check out Eric at ericlanigan.com for all Eric Lanigan information. Suncast, your website, please. Amadeus, right?
Yes, Amadeus. That's spelled AMADAIS.com. It's a little play off Amadeus Mozart. And it's a music blog where I feature not so well-known artists and amateur artists. I like to feature them a little bit. Anybody that's on YouTube that kind of does this as a hobby or wants to do this professionally and they just post their videos on YouTube, I like to feature them. And
people could submit videos to you, right, through the website. If they like a video, they can submit it to you, and amateur artists or people like that. I sent you a couple
they know that's
videos.
A singer that posts videos on YouTube, they can go ahead on my website, submit a video, and I'll post it.
Eric, anything else? I did the Eric Lanigan, but is there anywhere else people can follow you? I know on Twitter, you're on Facebook, you're on Google+.
YouTube, LinkedIn, I mean, everywhere finer social networks are sold.
And so pretty much go to ericlanigan.com to get more Eric Lanigan
with a K.
With a K. Eric with a K, everybody.
Yes.
And we'll see you all next week. Before I go, I want to remind everybody we have our comic book show, Behind the Counter with Rich and John, following this right now. So once I'm done, I'm running out of here. They're coming in. And then the free-for-all this evening. Actually, Rich and John are hanging out for the free-for-all. So it should be a fun next 5 hours. Until next week, good night, everybody.